international relations paper is divided into the three part. The first part is the basically history, that how the idea about the international relations has evolved. And in this first part, you will know that how the international, the Philadelphia Westphalia concept or the Magna Carta has evolved, how the idea about the international relations or the concept of international relations has emerged in the modern world. Apart from that, in this paper, the second part will deal with you the theoretical perspective, means the science of international relations. The second part will teach you that how you can identify and track the scientific fact. For example, you can see the current condition of Afghanistan. So how you can understand that what is going on in the Afghanistan, why this is happening in the Afghanistan. So with the help of these theories, you will try to grab the truth of the international activities and the international events, whatsoever the events are going on. And the third part is basically is all about the practice thing. Whatsoever the things has been happened in the world or in the global perspective, what are those event and important thing has been happened. So we will discuss you these things. So I will teach you this third part. So in this, before starting the third part, here I would like to say to all of you that all of you need to understand the basic concept. The concept is very important because without understanding or knowing the concept or the words, then it will be quite tricky. You will, for example, if we can use the term international versus global, how you can identify where we need to use the term international versus the global. So like the international term, which represents a kind of the countries, all over the countries in the world, means one country or two countries. Whereas whenever we are using the term globe, it means the earth as a unit. So whenever we are using the term international, it means we are talking about the concept of unit. So here, whenever we are using the term international, it means we are using the country as a unit. Whereas whenever we are using the term globe, it means we are using the earth as a kind of unit. So whenever we are using the terms international, for example, we are using the term international relations. It means we are talking about the relationship between the one country versus the another country. But whenever we are using the term global relations, so it means we are talking about the relationship between the earth versus Mars versus Saturn and all those things. So means what is the basic unit is here. So in international, the basic unit is the country or is as a state. Whereas whenever we are using the global, it means the whole earth as a kind of one unit. It means, for example, we always talks about the global warming or the global terrorism. Whenever we are using the term global warming, it means the impact is not going to make on one country, but the impact is going to make all over the world, means whole earth. The whole earth is going to pay the cost for the increase of temperature. The one or two countries not going to pay the cost for that. Same thing like that, if we are using the term international terrorism, it means the terrorism is going to make impact on one or two or few countries. It is not going to impact the sea. It is not going to impact the mountains. But whenever we are using the term global terrorism, it means they are using the weapons, they're using the mass destruction, WMD, mass destructing weapons, WMD kind of weapons, which is not going to impact only the country or the people, but it is going to impact of a whole earth, a whole planet. So we are talking about in that manner. So whenever we are using the term international, it means the country, we are talking about the country as a unit. Whenever you are using the term global, it means the earth as a kind of unit. Whereas means whenever we are using the term, there are other terms are there similar to the international and global. The terms are very much related to these terms are there. the state, the nation state. So in today's lecture, I'm going to discuss you the important concept, because all of you have to have very good understanding about the concept. For example, if I'm taking the name of a state, what do you understand by the term state? The state means the four important basic concepts. In the first year political theory paper, you must have read that the state represents the four important things. What are those four important things? The first is the territory, the second is the population, the third is the government, and the fourth is the sovereignty. Whenever wherever we find these four things, it means we can say that is a state. Wherever there is any one thing is missing, even the sovereignty is missing, the government is missing, the territory is missing, it means we cannot say the state. Like whenever we are calling anything as a water, so water means hydrogen two atoms, and the oxygen one atom will include the kind of water. Same thing like that. Whenever we are taking the concept of state, it means the four important things are there in the state. That is the government, territory, population, and the sovereignty. Wherever these four things will meet, there automatically the state will form. So you must have read in the political theory paper that how the idea about the state has emerged. So there are so many theories related to the state. One is talking about how the natural birth of the state is there. Some people is talking about contractarian state, that on the basis of contract the state has emerged, and some people are talking about the modern state has emerged. So there are several state theories are there. I'm not going to discuss those theories. So basically the state means the four important component: population, government, territory, and the sovereignty. I hope all of you must be aware about what is population, the total number of people living in a particular area or the land. The territory means particular boundary, like the boundary of India, Sri Lanka, Australia, or the USA. The boundary is there. The third is the government. All the particular area will have a certain kind of government will be there. The government, any form of the government, democratic or the dictatorship form of the government can be there. And the fourth is the sovereignty. What is the sovereignty? Sovereignty means the supreme power. The power means the country is not bound to accept the decision of any other state. Means the country is supreme power. The state is supreme power. For example, India is not going to accept all the things whatsoever the USA is saying to India, that you need to do that, you need to do this. So India is sovereign enough. India is capable enough to take their own decision. India is not pressurized by any country in the world. So if any country is not sovereign enough, it means that country is not the state. Means any country, any small country, even though if you can say that Nepal, India can say to the Nepal that you can do that, and Nepal can't able to say to no to the India, it means the Nepal is not a state. So wherever we are talking about the state, the sovereignty must be there in the state. Whereas the two terms are very much near to the state, but this is not the state. The concept of nation and the nation state. The idea about the nation has emerged during the independence struggle or during the struggle against the colonialism and the imperialism. Means the nation represents the people's attachment towards their motherland. Means the people always take or consider that motherland is the first and the foremost thing. Means it is related to the emotions and the values. So what are those two important things are there in the nation? The people, the population will be there, and the people's emotion will be there towards their motherland. But there may be chances that there may not be any government can be there. They may not have any kind of sovereignty can be there. Means, but they have some certain feeling towards the motherland. Now, after the colonialism and the imperialism, we can say that most of the state has generated the idea about the love towards the nation. Now, like all of us always call ourselves as we are Indians. We are Indians, and we believe and we love our motherland, and we can sacrifice our life and our whole thing for the motherland. So what is this? This is one hand India is a state, whereas the people is having their affection, their feeling towards the motherland. So in contemporary era, most all the state, all the nation, all the countries in the world are following the model of the nation state, because all the people have their love and affection towards their motherland. The next idea is the nationalism. Nationalism is an ideology which is very much near to the nation, or the people's feeling towards the motherland. Means all the people always try to take that nation is the supreme, and in front of the nation there is nothing. Means there is no personal interest is there. There is no interest of the other thing. The first and the foremost thing in front of them is how we can protect and promote the interest of nation, how we can protect and promote the interest of the nation state. Means for being an Indian, we are trying to make India as a proud. We can do whatever the thing can be possible. I'm trying to do as much as research as possible, so that the India name can be there at the global level, that this theory has been propounded by one Indian. So what we are doing, we are trying to promote the interest of nation. The nation interest is the prior, and nothing is ahead than the interest of the nation. So it is an ideology, it is an feeling towards the nation. So nationalism is a basically ideology where the people always try to promote the nation and promote the interest of nation, and for them there is nothing ahead than the nation. Their self interest is nothing nowhere, but the interest of the nation is the prior, and the first and the foremost interest is the nation interest is there. The next term is the sovereignty. Sovereignty, as I had discussed with you, the sovereignty means the supreme power. Means no one is ahead than this. For example, if you are talking about the sovereignty, where do we have the sovereignty in India? Anyone can answer me the question. In India, where do we have the sovereignty? Anyone can answer the question?
In the people of India. It is vested in the people of India.
People, okay. Anurag is saying people of India.
Sir,
Anyone else?
like the concept of sovereignty has like different implications. If we talk about the popular sovereignty, it's in people. If we talk about the constitutional sovereignty, it's in
No, I am
parliament.
talking about simple sovereignty. I'm not talking about popular. Popular sovereignty concept has been discussed in the Rousseau's theory of general will. So I'm not talking about that theory. I'm talking about where do we have the sovereignty in India? If you have such question in your exam, where do we have a sovereignty? The parliament, the Supreme Court, the Constitution, the people. You have 4 options are there. You can choose anyone and answer me the question why you are choosing anyone.
Sir, Constitution.
Any response?
So the Constitution describes sovereignty in preamble.
Sovereignty in preamble.
Means we are a sovereign state. So preamble.
No, I'm talking about where do we have the sovereignty? Means if you can ask, if I'm asking you the question, where do we have the sovereignty? Which is the supreme power in India, which can never be tilted, which we can never transfer, which we never share. That thing is there. Means that is supreme power. All the people are going to accept those things.
Sir, judiciary.
Judiciary is also bound by the parliament. Parliament makes many, for example, judiciary makes the decision, and the decision is changed by the parliament. Parliament makes the law, and the law, whatsoever the law passed by the parliament, the judiciary is bound to follow those laws.
Sir, due to the presence of checks and balances, we don't really have a single authority that is unquestioned.
No, there is.
Sir, sovereignty is vested in people only, the power of people, because it is stated in preamble also that we, the people of India, has given us the power of the sovereign power, and this constitution, which is the power of sovereignty, which is described in the constitution, is very much vested in the people of India.
But how can you say that people in India can be sovereign enough? Because whatsoever we are following the law, whatsoever the law is there, whatsoever the written things, documents are there, we are bound by the law. We are not sovereign enough. We are not capable enough to follow our own thing. We have to follow the law. So according to me, the law is supreme.
But sir, those laws which are made by the legislatures, and those legislatures are very much elected by us only. So the power is very much vested in people, according to my opinion. This
Okay,
is
good opinion is there, Vaisha. You have good opinion that, but we are following the law, and means we are propelled by the law. We are not independent enough. For example, if I want to go from here to the Connaught Place, I have to follow the red light. I do not have to go by any way. Means I have to follow the rules and regulations. So I am not supreme enough. I am following the law. Someone is saying the parliament is also bounded by the people, means parliament can change after 5 years. The people who are electing the representative, they are the most powerful. They are electing the representative and they are making the law.
Sir, in the
Excuse me, I'm
constitution,
audible.
Yes, Anurag, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So, as in the start, I said the sovereignty is vested in the people of the country. So, because as Varisha also mentioned in the constitutional preamble, it is clearly mentioned that we, the people of India, have to perform all the duties. And sir, the laws you are talking about, they actually reflect the aspirations of the people. It is our aspiration to create situation for a just society. For that, you have to follow the law. So, it is basically our own sovereignty which frames the law in some or the other way.
It means, you are saying that we, the people of India, you are talking about the preamble which you are reading. It means we are following the rules and regulation. It is not saying that we, the people, are sovereign enough. We, the people, are going to follow all the rules and regulation which is written in the preamble. We are going to follow all the things. We are not going to say that we are not going to follow the law. So that thing has been mentioned in the constitution. Yes, Sandra.
Sir, I think I just wanted to ask you whether what you're trying to mean is like from what Anurag and Varisha are trying to say, they have been trying to say that the connotation "we the people," that's what they're bringing it up. But I think, sir, after listening to what you said, the very aspiration of the people cannot actually govern the public. When that aspiration is converted into a legitimate document or a law, only then people will abide by it. So you're saying that the sovereignty lies in the wordings of the law, right, sir?
Yeah, somewhere you are near about that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so the answer is a constitution. The constitution in India, the sovereignty lies in the constitution. All of us are bounded by the constitution. We have to follow, even though parliament is following or doing the work on the basis of written document, constitution. What's the problem has been happened? I'm going to just discuss with you in the debate. This is the political process in India paper is there. I had taken the paper, and that point of time I have even though discussed this thing in the class. What has happened in the parliament discussion during the formation of the constitution, that where shall we put the sovereignty? The sovereignty should lie in the hands of people, or in the hands of parliament, or in the hands of judiciary, or in the hands of the constitution. So many people have raised a problem related to, as most of you have said, that the power should be in the hands of people, because the democracy is here for the people, by the people. Concept is there, like the Abraham Lincoln has said. So, but that point of time, some parliamentarian during the constitutional debate, it has been raised how we can identify that one person is having sovereign, other person is sovereign, because we are going to follow the law. And for example, you can imagine any one person in this classroom is the sovereign enough, means all the person in the classroom is sovereign enough. What will happen? All the person will follow their own rules. That I'm not going to take the decision of Sandra. I'm not going to follow the Anurag. I'm not going to follow the Akars. I'm not going to follow the Varisa. Means all of them are going to follow their own rules and regulation, whatsoever they feel bad and the good. So that will create a chaos in the society. Then it has been realized that we need to make parliament as a sovereign. Then it has been also thought that, for example, 545 parliamentarians will come, both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. They can give the power to the parliament, that parliament can make any law, and they can change any law. And at certain period of the time, any such people will grab the parliament, and they have the majority. They can make the law for self. They cannot make the law for the country. So at such situation, they can protect and promote the interest of self. So at such situation, what will happen? All the people of the India country will have to pay for that. then it has been decided that we need to give the power to the constitution, because the constitution is not driven by any self-interest. Constitution is going to interpret, we are going to interpret the constitution, and constitution is equal for all. It is not going to bias. So then it has been discussed that we need to give the power to the constitution, because either the parliament is there, Supreme Court is there, or the individual is there. All of us are going to follow the constitution, and constitution is unbiased. Constitution is interpreting all the person in a equal basis. So we are going to give the power to the constitution, and no one is here, even the parliament, Supreme Court, or any person is, no one is ahead than the parliament. The constitution. The constitution is the supreme. Even though if parliament can make any law, you know that basic structure of Indian constitution, you cannot play with the basic structure of Indian constitution. And during the Minerva Bill case, it has been also said that the parliament, neither parliament nor the Supreme Court can change the basic structure of Indian constitution. Keswanand Bharti case, it has been mentioned, it has been discussed. So what I'm talking to you is that in India, the sovereignty lies in the constitution, whereas the country like some country like the Britain, you can see that the sovereignty lies in their what you call the House of Commons is there. They have the most powerful body is the House of Commons. There is no such kind of constitution written document is there. So their sovereignty lies in the House of Commons. So all the countries have a different kind of sovereignty. So what I was talking to you is that all the countries in the world have the sovereignty. And if any nation doesn't have the sovereignty, it means that nation is not the nation state. The next concept is the supranational power. Means the supranational power, some point of time you will we will use in terms of the bipolar world, multipolar world, or the unipolar world. Means supranational power means the country which is most powerful, the country which is not going to abide by the anybody, any particular institution. Like we always talks about the USA during the post-Cold War era. The USA has emerged as a supranational power, and USA, for example, USA has done the attack on the Afghanistan. USA has done the attack on the Iraq, or Iran. Means USA has done the attack on the Vietnam. Means many countries USA has taken the initiative. So the country which is powerful, which is not boundary by the which is not compelled by the any other power. So that has been talked about the supranational power. The next is the soft power. What is the soft power? Nowadays, there is a soft power diplomacy is there. Soft power means the relationship based power, the power which is based on the mutual understanding, the power which is based on the diplomacy. Like the Indian diaspora, the Indian migrant people are there in the South Africa, the Indian migrant people are there in the USA. They are playing important role in the pressurizing the government that you can make a very friendly relation with the India, because they are the Indians and they believe that India is a country which is going to support the USA. Nowadays, this migration, the Indian people are playing important role to play the role with the what you call kind of country to make the influence the country, the decision. For example, as I have discussed you that India's relation with the South Africa, India's relation with the Mauritius, India's relation with the USA, the Indian people, like you must have heard Indo-US nuclear deal. The Indo-US nuclear deal has majorly done by the Indians. Means the Indians who are there in the USA, they have pressurized the government that you can make the nuclear deal with the India, and that has made the what you call pressurized from the government. So soft power means we are not using any weapon. For weapon, on the place of weapon, we have the relationship, we have the Indian people, the friend, the diplomacy is there, the kind of diaspora is there. They are playing important role to influence the decision of a country. Whereas the hard power means whenever we are threatening the country that, okay, if you are not going to take this decision, then we are going to use these weapons. So hard power means the power which is on the basis of arm, the power which is based on the weapons, not based on the diaspora, not based on the diplomacy, not based on the kind of relationship based kind of diplomacy. So it is the hard power means on the basis of weapons, on the basis of arms. So that is called as a hard power. Hard power. So whereas the polarity means bipolar world, multipolar world, how the world is divided into the how much power. So nowadays it has been said that in the contemporary era, some person are saying that it is unipolar world. The USA is still powerful, but some persons are saying that the world is multipolar world. The USA has emerged as a powerful country. The China is also a powerful country. India is also a powerful country. Russia is also a powerful country. So most of the country has evolved in the world as a powerful country. There is no one country is a powerful, but some person is saying that world is a bipolar world. The USA and the China is there. Two giants are there. So the world is divided into how many power blocks, or which is the most powerful. Whenever we are using the term polarity, it means the most powerful state in the world. What is the balance of power? You must have read in the political process in India, paper 2, that the maintaining the relationship in the global politics, it has been said that balance of power is very important. Why? For example, when the USA will become as the most powerful nation in the world, what it will do? It will make a dictatorship. It will say that India, you need to do that. The China, you need to do that. What happened if there is a balance of power? If the China will emerge as a powerful country, India will emerge as a powerful country, Russia is emerged as a powerful country, then the dictatorship of USA will not run. Now the USA will have pressure from the India, the USA will have pressure from the Russia too. That if I will make this kind of action, the India will react to that, and I need to pay for that. And India will also not become as a kind of dictatorship. Whatsoever the action will be taken by India, that India will have a fear of the USA. Means there is a kind of balance of power will be there. Means the distribution of power in an equal basis will be there. The next concept is the globalization. Globalization is a process. It is a process of decreasing space and time between the people. मतलब कि whenever we are using the term globalization, it means the compression of time and space between the people, and it is a process. It is ongoing process. Why I'm calling it as a process? Before you can imagine, before 500 and 600 years, whenever you want to go from here to the USA, it took months to reach the USA. After some scientific invention, it has decreased to the months. Now after a certain period of the time, it has decreased to the hours. Now means 9 hours, 8 hours to go to the USA. Nowadays, in the modern technology, with the help of laptop and the information technology, we doesn't require to wait for 9 hours or 8 hours. We can meet. We are doing the online chatting. We are taking the class, for example, without meeting each other or without having a physical presence. So this is a kind of globalization, means the compression of time and space between the people, how the gap between the people is decreasing. So this is a process, and within few days the new science technology will evolve. We doesn't require to utilize the car or the metro. Just we need to have some button kind of thing. We can sit on that and we can go wherever we want to. So that is a development of technology will utilize. So these concepts are very important, and apart from that, there are few more concepts are there, but I thought that these concepts all of you should read and have to have very good understanding about the concept. There are three major images are there. First image is the individual. How the individual is there. Individual means I'm talking about in terms of the person. The second image is the state. We need to create an idea about the state, how the state is there. The state is dictatorship, the democratic state is there, the autocratic state is there, what kind of nature of state is there. The third image is the international system. What kind of international system is there? So we need to think about the three images, that individual, state, and the international system. What kind of international system is there? I will discuss you later on once I will discuss you the event. There are two kinds of actors are there. Whenever we are talking about in the international relations, the two actors are there, the state actors and the non-state actor. What is the state actor? State actor means the person who are associated, the bodies who are associated with the government, like the parliament, like the legislature, like the executive, like the judiciary. like the activities done by the government officers or the government officials or by the state. What is the non-state actor? Means the body or the institution or the organizations that is not associated with the state, like non-governmental organization, NGOs, like media, like those institutions who are not playing or working with the government or under the hands of the government. So non-state actors means those institutions or those actors who are not part or who are not linked or under the government. So there are two. Whenever in international relations we are talking about the state actors and the non-state actors, so we are saying that how the government is functioning, how the NGOs is functioning. Whenever we are talking about the non-state actor, so we are talking about what is the role of Red Cross Society, what is the role of United Nations, because that is not non-state actor. Whenever we are talking in terms of the state actor, we are talking about how the USA officials are doing, how the Indian officials are doing. For example, in the case of Afghanistan, if you are talking about what is the role of non-state actor, so you will see that how the NGOs are performing their role, how the NGOs is helping the people to evacuate or to leave the Afghanistan. So these are the two important actors are there, state actors and the non-state actor. So you can see that war, this is also one of the important term. War means that the clash between the two or the more nation. Whenever we are using the term war, it is always representing the two or more nation clash is there, and in that war we are using the weapon. And whenever we are using the war, it means it is internationally announced. For example, just I'm taking with the example. Okay, I have question for you. Do we call that Kargil as a war or Kargil as a kind of just as a kind of mutiny? What we call the Kargil as a war or a mutiny? And if you are saying the Kargil as a war, why we can say that Kargil as a war? Anyone?
Sir, we stated as a war because two nations were in conflict at that point of time. Their national interests were at conflict.
Okay, you have used the term conflict. It is Kargil as a conflict is there or Kargil as a war?
No, sir. It is stated as war because there was a conflict of interest between India and Pakistan.
But why we are
Territorial
calling it as a war?
reason.
There is a particular term is there. We are using whenever we are using the term war, it means there is some very scientific term is there. It is not a conflict like the Galwan region conflict. We are talking about not the war. Galwan conflict has taken place, not the Galwan war. So why we are using the term conflict? Why we are using the term war? Anyone?
Sir, I'm not sure regarding this, but I guess the Pakistani government never accepted that their soldiers had actually fought the war. I guess they called it a mutiny or a rebellion by a group called Mujahideens. So I guess if two governments don't accept that there is military involvement, official military involvement, then it shouldn't be called a war. It should be called a conflict. I'm not sure regarding this. I'm just guessing it.
Okay, very good. Very good mention, Anurag. Okay. What I want to tell you is that whenever we are using the term war, it means the one country has international level. In international, what happens? There is announcement is there on official page. You can see that officially India has announced the war against the Pakistan during that period of the time during the Kargil. That the Kargil is not the part is not been a kind of infiltrators are there. That there India has shown a kind of real identity proof ID cards, and most of the ID persons were there from the Pakistani army personnel were there. So India has verified, and India, even though the Kargil war, which has already been notified on the 5th of May, you can imagine, and the war was announced on the 20th or 24th May. I'm forgetting the date. So it has taken 10 to 14 days time. India has not announced within 1 day or within 1 hour. India has taken time to take the to make the international image that it is not the infiltrators or it is not the kind of local people. It is not the migrant of the local people, but it is the Pakistani people who are migrating or who are attacking or who has captured the India region, India's Kargil region. So India has announced that we have the proof. These are the proof. India has sent the proof to the United Nations and also to the Pakistan that these are the ID cards are there. You can see that these officials are your army personals are there. So we are announcing war against you, and that was the Kargil was considered as a war because India has announced the war open basis as an international basis. I am attacking on you. India has not said that I'm just taking back my region, but India has officially announced that I am attacking on the that region, especially the Kargil region, to take back our region. So that's why India has announced internationally. There is announcement is there, but conflict will take place. It is not. There is no requirement of the announcement. It used to happen in most of the countries. The conflict between the Russia versus China, the North Korea versus South Korea. But once they will say that war, it means there is internationally the country has announced I'm attacking on that nation. It means on the open basis, official page, it has been said. But the conflict is never been said. It never been mentioned. It is just as a local thing, and it happens with most of the countries in the world. So whenever we are using the term, that is very important. The next term is the diplomacy. What is the diplomacy and the negotiation? The diplomacy means the one country is trying to protect and promote the interest. Like you can see in the image, that some country is trying to convince the other person that if you can make this kind of deal, Indo-US nuclear deal, that will help the USA as well as the India. So India was trying to make the Indo-US nuclear deal that if this deal will happen, the USA will get so much of money and India will get the electricity. So what was that? India was trying to do the diplomacy means all the countries are trying to make and protect and promote their interest. So whenever we are using the diplomacy means the exercise is done by the mental exercise. And whenever we are doing the negotiation, for example, India and the China, the border dispute is there. So China and India, both of the country are negotiating. Okay, I'm accepting the Arunachal Pradesh region that is being captured by the India, and whatsoever the Aksai Chin region is there, you should not call that region as India region. We are accepting. I am accepting the Arunachal Pradesh, and you should accept the Aksai Chin region. So that is a new negotiation, give and take kind of thing will be there. Diplomacy is promoting the interest of both the nation, but the negotiation will kind of market kind of thing is there that we are giving one thing and I'm taking one thing. So that kind of negotiation is taking place. So whenever we are talking about in that manner, so we can use there is another term is there, international trade or the commerce. Whenever we do the international trade, it means the trade between the companies, between the one or two countries or more than 2 or 3 countries are there. But whenever we are using the global trade, it means the trade all over the earth. So it never be there in the global trade. You will always listen international trade. And whenever we are using the term commerce, commerce means it includes the business, it includes online, it includes offline kind of thing. So the next is the terrorism. The terrorism is basically an ideology which have the major agenda is to increase the terror in the world, to bring the fear in the world that whatsoever the things is being said, if you're not going to follow those things, then it will make impact on us. That then is next term is the tourism. That is not very much related to you. So so what I was talking to you is that the state and the government relationship is there between in the internationally, the India relations is there with the world is there. So these things are not very important. So these things I thought that I can have a discussion with you. Okay. So in next class, I will start you the practice part. So I will teach you the First World War, that how the First World War has been taken place and how we can see the First World War. So there I will try to give you some